Welcome everyone to the December 6th, 2021 Redevelopment Commission. We're gonna jump right into our roll call. Commissioners?
Cindy Canarney is here.
Deb Hutton here.
Deborah Meyerson here.
David Walter here.
Nick Kappas here. All right, city staff.
Jeff Underwood, City Controller, Treasurer.
Larry Allen, Legal.
John Zodi with hand.
Brent Peterson, City with hand.
Okay. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. All right, so can everyone hear me? Am I mute? Okay, we're good. All right, I see nods. All right, cool. All right, moving on to second item on today's agenda, reading of minutes for November 15th, 2021. Commissioners, any questions or edits to the minutes from November 15th? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion.
This is David Walter. I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes for November 15th, 2021.
Deb Hutton, I'll second the motion by David.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's go through roll call.
Cindy Canarney, yes.
Deb Hutton, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes.
David Walter, yes.
Nick Kappas, yes. All right, minutes for November 15th, 2021 have been approved. On to item number 3, examination of claims for November 12th, 2021 for the amount of $145,562.82. And November 24th, 2021 for $455,945.22. Any comments on the examination of claims by commissioners? And if not, I would entertain a motion.
Deb Hutton, oh, go ahead.
No, you can go first and I'll go second. How's that?
Deb Hutton, I move approval of the said claims registers.
Cindy Canarney seconds.
We have a motion and a second. Let's go to roll call.
Cindy Canarney, yes.
Deb Hutton, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes.
David Walter, yes.
Nick Kappas, yes. Examination of claims for November 12th and 24th have been approved. All right, on to item number 4, examination of payroll registers for October 22nd, 2021 for the amount of $34,130.86 and November 5th, 2021 for $34,149.62. Commissioners, any comments on the payroll registers? If not, I entertain a motion.
Cindy Canarney, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the payroll registers for October 22nd, 2021 and November 5th, 2021.
Deborah Meyerson, I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's move to roll call.
Cindy Canarney, yes.
Hutton, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes.
David Walter, yes.
Nick Kappas, yes. Payroll registers for October 22nd and November 5th have been approved. On to item number 5 on tonight's agenda is report of officers and committees. We'll start off with a director's report. Director Zodi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hopefully you can hear me. If you hear a screaming puppy in the background, I apologize. I'm at home this evening. We have a new dog. But good to be with you tonight. A couple things on the director's report side. So we are proceeding on the hospital project, obviously, and had a recent meeting with the hospital steering committee and look to update the RDC for the first of the year about that. Mary Catherine Carmichael is working with the folks at Borshoff as the RDC approved recently to get those projects underway. And as all of you know, and the public knows, the hospital officially moved yesterday. So we're now referring to the traditional hospital is the Legacy Hospital, and a fence is up, and neighborhood outreach is ongoing, and lots is going on at the hospital as always, but even more will start to happen, and the fence being up and the demolition, I should say the decommissioning will start now, and then the demolition will follow next year. But we'll look to keep all of you updated. Just want to remind the commissioners that if you have any questions at all, please reach out to staff, and we'll be happy to answer what we can. The next thing is you recently approved the posting of the Cottage Grove lots. This is a series of properties on West Cottage Grove Avenue, sort of strips of property that had historically been reserved for a possible sidewalk project or a street widening. We posted those lots for sale. We've had one offer by an adjacent homeowner by the deadline today, and Larry Allen was heading that up for us along with Christina and Brent on the staff side. So I want to thank them for their help there. We did have one offer there to purchase one of those strips of property. And then, as you all know, December 20th is our last meeting of the year. So we'll sort of have any cleanup and any resolutions that might need to be extended or anything into the new year. We'll talk to you about that in the coming weeks as we approach the end of the year. It's a bit busy time here at the city. So that's it on the director's side, unless there are any questions, Mr. President.
Okay. No, so you actually mentioned, and this might be more for Ed here if Director Crowley was on, but when you're saying public outreach, are we talking about the renaming as well? Is that underway right now?
Yeah,
the hospital site.
Yeah, the Borshoff is under contract, and they are conducting their outreach and interviews and things like that. So the outreach I was referring to was just making sure we're communicating with neighborhoods around the hospital site so that they remain aware what's happening when. With the fence going up, it can look a little intimidating about what's happening when. And with the patient move yesterday, obviously a lot will start to take place and things will start changing in the coming months, appearance wise. So if you're driving into town on West 2nd, it's going to look a lot different in the coming year. And so we just want to make sure folks around everywhere and also immediately adjacent to the hospital property are kept up to date about what's happening. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All
right.
Next, last question.
Oh, go ahead.
John, since you mentioned the December 20th sort of wraps up this year of meetings, do you or Christina know yet what the meetings will be in the new year, especially January, February? Like, is it the first Monday of January again, starting with the third, or do you put them off because of the new year? Or I've just not been in a January on this commission, so
sure.
Planning ahead.
Yeah, that's a great question, and neither have I. So I will defer to Larry and Christina there. That's a great question on the 2022 calendar. So may I ask them to chime in if they have a minute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, funny enough, it's Mr. Allen's turn for report of officers and committees, so he can add that in there.
Fantastic. Yeah, typically, just to start with the answer to the question, it is the first and the third Monday. So this time, it's particularly because it's an organizational meeting. So January 3rd will be the first one. It's not the first one, Jeff?
It's not the first one. Unfortunately, the way the calendar falls this year, typically the city would take the Friday before for New Year's Day, but given that would have unbalanced our calendars for the holidays in the 2 years, the city is actually going to observe New Year's Day on January the 3rd. So we'll have to figure out the schedule and get back to you. After that, it should continue to be the first and third Mondays unless they fall on a holiday, and then they typically fall to the Tuesday. So probably the first meeting will either be a Tuesday or we'll have back-to-back meetings in January.
Oh, I see. So February would be normal, but January might be a little odd. Okay.
Right, yeah.
So for my sake, with grandkids in Chicago, I would just, the sooner we sort of know to put it on, I would appreciate that.
We'll get with Christina and Larry and I and get that worked out and get it out to y'all.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Oh, wrong about the
Mr. Allen?
first thing. I'm happy to answer any other questions incorrectly and have Jeff correct me. So feel free.
It's a rare moment. Mr. Allen. It's a rare moment. So, all right. If there's nothing else for Mr. Allen, on to Mr. Underwood. Treasurer's report.
No, nothing specifically. We'll have a presentation here from Reedy coming up. So we'll have that, and then happy to answer any questions. And you know, I will mark this down. I think it's the first time I've ever had to semi-correct Larry. It's typically him correcting me. So it is a bellwether day for me.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And then I don't believe Mr. Crowley, Dr. Crowley is on, but if there's anyone that has any questions for business development, I'd say let's go to Larry for that. But other than that, if there's no questions, I'll move on. Not hearing any. We're going to go on to item number 6, new business. We have 4 items on today's new business agenda. We have 2021 annual informative presentation by Reedy Financial. We have resolution 21-88, confirmation of emergency home repair authorized in resolution 21-84, resolution 21-89, project review and approval form Seminary Square lighting, and then resolution 21-90, funding approval of construction agreement for traffic signal upgrades at 11 and Walnut and 14th and Walnut. So let's go ahead and begin with the 2021 annual informative presentation by Reedy Financial.
Good evening.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Mr. President.
Go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead.
I was
No,
going
go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to introduce you, just give a little history, is that this is a report that I think this is the 3rd year now that this has been required. This is in addition to the annual report that we compile internally and file back in April for you all and for the city council. And Reedy's been kind enough to do this for us now. Certified letters went out to all the affected parties. So it's been duly noticed. And with that, I'll turn it over to Matt and let him present. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jeff. And good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be here with you guys tonight. My name is Matt Frischie. I'm with Reedy Financial Group. Like Jeff mentioned, we've been doing this, helping the city of Bloomington out for the past 3 years. I know when this reporting requirement came up, we were kind of at the forefront of quantifying what a TIF impact was to overlapping units. So pleasure to be helping out with the city of Bloomington with this reporting requirement. So I know you guys have the presentation in your packets. If you don't mind, it may just be easier for me to go ahead and share my screen if that works with everyone. Seeing some nods, so I'll go ahead and do that. Let me pick the right one here. Okay, can everyone see that presentation? Perfect. So, as Jeff mentioned, we are tonight going to be satisfying your guys' final reporting requirement that's due on an annual basis. So the December 31st, it just has to be done by the end of the year. And basically what we have to do tonight is we just present the TIF impact, or the impact of all the overlapping units for your guys' for Bloomington's TIF. We have, as Jeff mentioned, sent certified letters inviting everyone to this presentation and notifying them that they can request this presentation as well. So within this reporting requirement, we really need to focus on, some of the requirements is to focus on the budget, the long-term plans for the allocation areas, but the main purpose of this meeting is really just to quantify what the TIF impact is on all of these overlapping units that that the TIF affects. So we'll go ahead and just kind of give a quick brief overview. Bloomington now has two allocation areas. I know there were several before that were then consolidated into the larger Bloomington consolidated allocation area. Which is kind of why you'll see the expiration dates. There's a wide variety of expiration dates based on when those original areas were established. Great growth going on in this consolidated allocation area. Just quick numbers I looked at, 16% growth from last year to this year. So this TIF is very healthy and doing very well. And then you have the North Kensler Pike allocation area as well. And that one's kind of nearing its end, looking to expire Pay 2026. So I would just note here, there is a note that the exact expiration is subject to legal interpretation. I know there was a lot of changing legislation when a lot of these allocations were established based on how long they were to last, whether 30 years, 25 years, and now current statute is 25 years after the issuance of TIF debt on those allocation areas. So moving forward, taking a look at the TIF, consolidated TIF fund. So this is, like I said, the very healthy allocation area, the consolidated allocation area that you guys have that experienced 16% growth over the past year. On this slide, you'll see capital outlays and expenses are as of 8/31. So moving along fine as the year progresses. We do expect surplus as of right now within this fund. And if you guys have any questions, I know you guys are pretty well in tune to what's going on within these different areas. So I know Jeff is here to chime in on specific projects that we're looking towards in the future. But if no one has any questions, I'll just go ahead and move on to the next one. We can get to the nuts and bolts of this presentation here in just a second. So North Kinser Pike, just kind of the same thing. I know one of the long-term plans for this is to focus on the Cascades Trail. Significantly less revenue, but that's just because it's a significantly smaller area and it doesn't have, I think it was 6 allocation areas that have been consolidated together. So moving on, we'll get into the actual TIF impact and start quantifying, what is the impact to all these different overlapping units. And before I get into the nuts and bolts, we do want to focus on circuit breaker. Whenever we're quantifying the impact that TIF has on overlapping units, it's imperative to bring up circuit breaker because the level of TIF impact, it is directly correlated to the circuit breaker environment that TIF is in. The higher the circuit breaker, the higher the TIF impact. So Monroe County, you'll see we have highlighted here, it ranks 14th out of all 92 counties in the state. So the circuit breaker isn't a huge problem like it is in the the Lake counties of the state. So and the Madison counties of the state. So that is a huge driver that's helping us out and helping out Bloomington's TIF as far as from an impact standpoint. So this is where we get down to the nuts and bolts of this presentation and kind of quantifying the specific impact that the allocation areas have on all the overlapping units. And just so you guys know kind of the methodology that goes behind this report, we put together extensive databases and abstracts to basically quantify taking all of Bloomington RDC's TIF revenue, or sorry, not TIF revenue, TIF assessed value. If we were to release that and say that tomorrow the allocation areas were to dissipate, what would be the impact to these overlapping units? What would their revenue streams, how would they differ? And really that comes down into the gray boxes. So you'll see that the most affected, and this makes complete sense because it is Bloomington's RDC. Bloomington Civil City is the most impacted by the TIF. So you see the circuit breaker impact is 1,150,739. We like to, we also quantify this as percent of the total impact. So 54% of the total impact of Bloomington's TIF is being held by Bloomington Civil City. When looking at these impacts, we also like to compare that to your budget, because it's one thing to say that Bloomington, the city is affected $1.15 million, but what is that in terms of their overall budget? Because that is a good comparison to show that the impact, it may look big from a number standpoint, but when you actually look at it as opposed to the entire budget, it's quite insignificant. So you'll see in Bloomington Civil City's case, it's 1.59% of their total budget. And as you can see, all the other overlapping units are well less than 1%, with the exception of Perry Township, which is just right over 1%. So basically what this means is, I could go through each one of the numbers if you guys want, but the total impact for all the overlapping units, additional revenue, if we were to release all of the assessed value within the allocation areas, the overlapping units would receive $2,127,532, which they would split based on their percentage of the impact. So, and those numbers are listed above. So alternatively, because the TIF is established, because the way taxes work in the state of Indiana, and units can only grow their revenue streams based on their max levy, because of all those different factors, Bloomington TIF receives $13.19 million on an annual basis. In this year, we'll achieve roughly $13.19 million. So we have that yellow and what we coined as the Tiff margin. So basically, this is additional revenue that's received from Bloomington RDC as a result of utilizing TIF and utilizing TIF in the way that it should be. So you guys as Bloomington RDC receive 13.19. If we were to release that, the units would only split the 2.12 million. So looking at that, that additional revenue of $11.062 million, that equates to a TIF margin of 84 cents. So what does that mean? Really, what that means is it's an additional money collected per every dollar collected by the RDC. So, if the RDC wasn't there, that 84 cents would not be there per every dollar that's collected. So, like I mentioned before, we're receiving above 13 million, whereas if the TIF wasn't there, those units would only split just over $2 million. So great example of how TIF should be used and a great example of how it should be used correctly in an area that, there is low circuit breaker, which helps us out. But it's been a great tool. I know that's helped the city of Bloomington to use TIF as a tool to help better the community. So that is all that the presentation holds. At this point, if anyone has any questions for Jeff and myself or Justin, who's on the line from my office as well, we'd be happy to answer, or you guys can, shoot me an email or give me a call, however you guys want to go about it. But that would conclude the annual requirement for the presentation. So figure out how to cancel this.
All right, thank you very much. That was fantastic. Commissioners, I know this is something that you guys have been waiting for all year. So do you have any questions?
I have a question, but I will also admit I'm kind of, I appreciate the definition explanation. My question is there untapped potential in terms of how the TIF could be used in the city of Bloomington, given what you've demonstrated in terms of the additional collections that are being enabled by the current TIF? Is that part of your analysis at all? Is that something that you could comment on?
That's not necessarily part of our analysis that we look at. Now, just from a general comment standpoint, those are, like I said, those are large numbers, large revenue numbers that Bloomington RDC is receiving, especially in that consolidated TIF fund. But as you saw on slide 4, it's not like we're receiving a lot of revenue that we're not utilizing, and that kind of comes into, there's a reporting requirement in June that actually basically requires you to say, how much are you receiving over how much you're spending? And if that percentage calculation is above 200%, you're basically supposed to notify all the overlapping units whether or not you'll be releasing some of that TIF assessed value. Basically, what the legislation was trying to do was just to make sure that we weren't just utilizing this tool to start harboring funds and not actually using them for the betterment of the community. And as I mentioned, the revenue amount that was punched into that slide was your guys' full revenue amount for the year, but those expenditures were only as of the end of August. And you guys just in that factor, we're at 143%. Like I said, the 200 is kind of the limit. So you guys are well below that. You guys are utilizing it, in the exact scenario that we like to see. There are other communities that we see across the state that aren't, utilizing TIF the way they should. So like I said, I would commend you guys for the great job that you've been doing. And I think it's clear to see when you just drive through Bloomington, the great things TIF's helped out with. So
thanks for your help with that. That is basically what I was trying to get at, is trying to understand, are we leveraging as efficiently and optimally as we can the resource that was available? Because it certainly looked good in your presentation.
Yep.
I just was trying to understand the difference between the existing and the potential.
Yep. And I would agree that I would just say yes. Short answer is yes. Now, like I said, in the overview section, There are, TIF's always evolving, and there are some of the original areas that are starting to near their expiration, the early of which, like I said, in the Kinzer Pike was 2026, the first of which in the consolidated area is 2029. So we are nearing that time frame. Now, some of them go out to 2041, I know, but it's always important just to keep in mind, when are these revenues, when are the assessed values going to start rolling off of our TIF base, going back to the overlapping units, which is a great thing because it helps from a tax standpoint, a tax rate standpoint, but how do we continue this growth and this type of TIF revenue that we've been experiencing and been utilizing so well?
All right. Well, we really appreciate your time tonight and putting this together, especially for those that are on beyond the commission. This is always extremely beneficial for the community at large to know, how our TIF district is doing, and clearly we're managing it. You're hearing my 3-year-old, so sorry about that. It's really important because this kind of transparency is extremely beneficial as we continue to go forward with these big projects such as the hospital site, right? I mean, it's not going to be cheap. So this is really good for people to see.
Great.
All right. Well, yeah, no, thank you. Mr. Underwood, do you have anything to say?
No, thanks, Matt. We appreciate that. And again, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email Matt and I. We'll be happy to help answer those. And we appreciate all your support on the RDC and the things that we do bring to you. And now you see kind of that bigger picture of how it all works and how we develop and redevelop and how we bring projects really across all of the areas within the two consolidated areas.
Great.
Thanks,
All
everyone.
right. Well, since we don't need to vote on it or anything, we can move on to the next item on today's list, which is Resolution 21-88. And that is confirming approval of additional funds for emergency home repairs. Director Zodi, is that you?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Sorry, my video is a little slow. We just wanted to confirm back that the repairs for the furnace at the last meeting, the commission approved some rehabs. There was an HVAC needed in a mobile home here in town, and the RDC approved that. We're asking about a 95% efficiency furnace that was found and installed in the unit. So appreciate the commission's thought there, and that was in fact done. And so confirmed that invoice was $7,795. So that should comport with the resolution, but wanted to just confirm that.
This says 7,195. So is it 7,179, 7,795, or is it 7,195?
Should be, according to the invoice, it's 7,795. So we may have a digit off.
Okay, so
Was Christina or Larry, I missed something there, but I'm showing the invoice at 77.95.
So if it is 7,795, I suggest that, well, we have to go through conversation, but if this does go forward, then it needs to be amended to reflect such.
Yeah.
So commission, any questions or comments for Director Zodi regarding 21-88?
I've got Deb Hutton. I've got a comment. And the last meeting when this was all discussed, my technology cut out just as the conversation started. So I would like to thank Deborah Meyerson for bringing up the topic of why keep it at 80%. Why not look for the highest efficiency possible within the price range that we had. So I just want to thank Deborah for doing that.
Thanks.
Yep, definitely. And a part of the conversation too is that, the processes and the amounts of old haven't been changed, and they're not accounting for new pricing. So that is something that is being reviewed on the staff level to see what actual pricing level should there be for RDC's approval. So hopefully that means that we will get to the point where it's 95% efficiency moving forward in general. With that, any comments from the public on 21-88? Not seeing anything, so we're going to go ahead and come back to the commission. Christina or Director Zodi, is there a confirmation on the amount?
I'm looking at the invoice. It says 7,795. So I would, and that is the higher amount. So I would, unless Larry or Christina disagree, I think that would probably be the amount we need to act on, and maybe the resolution was based on the 80%. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I show 7,795.
Okay, great. So with that being said, I would entertain a motion with an amended total of $7,795 for 21-88.
This is Deborah Meyerson. I'll move to approve 21-88 as amended.
Deb Hutton, I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's go to roll call.
Cindy Canardi, yes.
Deb Hutton, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes.
Did we lose Dave? You're on mute, Dave.
It's Dave Walter, yes.
All right. Nick Kappas, yes. All right, resolution 21-88 has been approved. That's great work by staff level. Thank you for doing that. Moving on to resolution 21-89, approval of project review and approval form for Seminary Park lighting. Who is the city staff that will be talking through this tonight?
Hello, this is Tim Street. I'm the Operations and Development Director for the Bloomington Parks and Rec Department.
Hey, Tim, go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you for having me tonight, RDC. Great to see all of you. Tonight, I have a project request for $29,565 for new lighting at Seminary Park. It is my understanding, I have not been with the city this long, but that a previous amount of $240,000 had been initially approved for rehab and lighting at Seminary Park. This past summer, of the original 9 acorn style lights, we lost the last 2 that were in the interior of the park, which now means if you drive past the park at night, it is completely dark in the interior of the park. So out of concern for maintenance, safety, and aesthetic, we wanted to move forward with purchasing new lights in there. We worked with BPD to coordinate what we feel is most appropriate for that park that maintains, number 1, a park aesthetic, but 2, the utility that we needed to, including being very durable. Scott Oldham was tremendously helpful from BPD in that front. And we're able to get this quote from ESL Spectrum. And then this would be followed up hopefully with delivery and then installation sometime early to mid 2022. It kind of just depends on how supply chain things work out. I do have a visual I can share real quick just to show you too what we're talking about. Bear with me 1 second. Hopefully that's showing up. You can see the orange circles were the original lights, which I don't know how old they were, but they were quite old. As I mentioned, we lost the last 2 this summer. They were actually about 9-foot tall acorn style lights. And the last 2 were actually ripped down. And so part of looking at this has been choosing something that's, number 1, a little bit taller, that is a little harder to break. Hopefully we are not tested to the extreme on that. We want to pick something that adds value to the park and adds aesthetic, but remains durable. And because it is taller and dark sky compliant now, which is one bonus of upgrading the lighting, we would only need 5 of these. They'd originally suggested 6, and we actually removed 1 because we feel like we're able to achieve the foot candles that we want in the park. They'll also have a control system that allows us to set the light level remotely via a laptop as well. So, for example, we could keep a low level of light there and then turn it up as needed if, we need to perform maintenance or things like that. Especially important in the winter, as we know, it's dark now. So the lighting will really be crucial in the winter months. Happy to answer any questions.
Can you move the visual at all to Tim to show us where the fifth one is? I can see three whole triangles, a fourth partial triangle, and something to the west, I suspect, would be a fifth.
Oh, is it not displaying correctly? Give me 1 second. I stop and reshare it again. How about now? There we go.
Yep.
Great, thanks.
Okay. All right. Any questions from commissioners?
I have a question that is not strictly related to this resolution, but it's common with the idea of capital improvements for Seminary Park, and that is, could RDC funds be used for restrooms in this park? And if so, how would that be brought forward?
That is a really good question that I have not considered. I see Jeff popping up. Jeff, do you want to address that one?
Yeah, we work closely with the Parks Department, with the Engineering Department and Public Works on capital projects, both inside and outside of the TIFs. And we rely on them based on master plans for the areas. In particular here, this would be a master plan for the park. So if that master plan called for restrooms in the area, then the Parks Department would work with our office to identify the funds for that, whether it be out of TIF or a bond or whatever. And then it would be brought, if it was out of a TIF, it would be brought forward to you, or if it was even a cost sharing type of things. I know the idea of restrooms, availability has been a big item. We had public restrooms installed in both of the two new parking garages, and funds were made available for the 4th Street garage to be open on a 24-hour basis. So we're going to test that out and see how that goes. Obviously, looking at added patrols to make sure that there's no damage. This is a park that has seen a lot of damage. We've seen this with the lighting. So that's another thing that we take into account is, can we keep the facilities open? Can we maintain them? And can we keep them safe? So that's a little bit of the background on how we work on these projects.
Thank you.
Deb, question?
Great.
Tim, when you said you went from 6 to 5 new light locations, I see the two westward ones are sort of central and southish. How come, is there enough lighting for the northwest corner of 2nd and Rogers, that sort of corner space? Do those lamp posts project enough light to keep that corner well lit enough, in your estimation?
That exactly was the idea. There had been one in the northwestern corner. When they did the light analysis on this, they designed it as if there was no external light. So they were just considering this, piece of property in and of itself. I think you can actually see the shadow of one of the streetlights up there on 2nd Street towards the north side. And there is not much in the way of tree cover up there. So combined with the fact that that is not really a path, a formal path, or a gathering area of the park, along with the light that comes off of both the Kroger lot and the streetlights in that area, we felt that 5 would be sufficient in this area.
Thank you. Thank you.
My question is for Larry. So can you explain more of the source of the source fund here? Because other than Dave, maybe Cindy was on at this time too, I'm not quite sure, but can you explain what in the TIF district, like what consolidated TIF bond is associated specifically with Seminary Square?
I can. Commissioner Kappas, we sold when we consolidated the TIFs in the downtown east-west areas, it's kind of a, if you look at the map now, it's kind of a reverse E. So it comes down the center of town, and then we've got the major corridors covered with that. We sold a very large, around $45 million, I believe, bond that also extended the life of that consolidated TIF. And this was a project that was identified, and it's just now coming forward. The Parks Department have worked diligently on a number of projects and different funding sources, but this goes all the way back to that original TIF bond that funded Switchyard Park, as well as a number of other projects, both parks related and street and other projects.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. It's just, I think one of the things that I always want to be cautious of is, how is this TIF money, it's a park, right? So
Yes.
how is our money helping the advancement of what TIF money is supposed to be used for? Are we saying that
This is that's not a new question. I thank you for that. Is that one is in and serving, obviously it's in, and how does it impact the development and redevelopment of the areas? And one of the things that we found as we were putting together projects for the consolidated TIF bond is kind of this concept that's emerged over the last 10, 15 years of live, work, play. So you see many communities developing within an area, and parks is a recreational activity. So people tend to develop businesses and housing projects where amenities like this are available. It's also very there's connectivity to the B line. So we see that that's the kinds of things that people want when they're planning businesses and apartments or workforce housing, is kind of that how can they get transportation, how can they get physical activities and work and shopping. So we've seen that these help us to redevelop the areas. We're starting to see a lot of redevelopment around the Switchyard Park. That was a big discussion around that as well. So you're going to see that area start to change, we believe, especially on the west side. As properties come up to be redeveloped, we've put, obviously the city is working on an affordable housing, workforce housing on the properties that we bought there on the northeast side of the park. There was an affordable housing project that just went in on the other side that was through the Bloomington Housing Authority. The warehouses that are on the west side are starting to develop. So we're seeing a lot of that happening, because the recreational activities and transportation is available to them. So that's how we've seen that work, and it's played out well so far.
Okay. All right, that answers my question. I appreciate you answering it in that format. You were picking up what I was putting down, so I appreciate that. Because we know basics of street lighting or road, streets, anything with construction, water, sewer, anything to help promote, any kind of development. If it wasn't for TIF, could this have happened? And that's really always my question whenever we're trying to fund something. If it wasn't for this money, would this have happened?
Yeah, I think, we really see this park being connected to obviously Seminary Park is rich history in Bloomington, the original Indiana University, but this connectivity to the B line and to the hospital redevelopment, we really think it's going to play a major part, as well as just being south of the proposed expansion of the convention center is important green spaces that help connect all of that redevelopment together.
Okay. Any other questions by commission?
I just had one question. So besides
Great.
the height that you talked about, what other, I guess, strategies or thought went into how to prevent additional lighting to be torn down, destructed, etc.?
Sure, yeah, a few things there. Number one, the height is going to enable the lights to be just more out of reach in terms of being the lights themselves being vandalized or broken. Number two, the other thing that we generally would see was that poles, even with the shorter poles, one person or two people were able to rock some of those old poles and break the hardware, break the base at the bottom and rip it down. That's what happened this summer. So by going to a taller pole, it's engineered to withstand more force inherently because of its height, because of what it needs to be designed for with storms, wind, things like that. And then additionally, I asked ESL Spectrum to basically look at this and give us the thickest pole width. The wall of the pole is hollow in the middle, but the wall of the pole width, to upgrade that as thick as it could be within tolerance, and to upgrade the hardware at the bottom in the hopes that, number one, the increased height already means greater engineering for the forces against it. And then number two, upgrading the pole wall thickness and hardware around the bottom, including the bolts, will give it more purchase and make it harder to vandalize.
Thank you.
Okay. And as with any petition, we open up to the public for comment, not questions. I'm not seeing any hands. So we are going to go back to the commission. And if there's no comments by the commission, I will entertain a motion for resolution 21-89.
This is Deb Hutton. Oh, you go ahead, David.
This is David Walter. I'll make a motion to accept resolution 2189.
Seconded, Deb Hutton.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and go to roll call.
Cindy Canardi, yes.
Deb Hutton, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes.
David Walter, yes.
Nick Kappas, yes. Resolution 21-89 has been approved. Now, I just want everyone to know again that item number 2 on the first page is the expenditure of funds is not approved by this resolution, but funding will be approved at a later date when the project manager brings contracts forward. So this is just approval of the project, just so us in the public are clear. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep, thank you. And then we're on to resolution 21-90, approval of funding for construction of Cascades Park Trail Phase 5. Oh, Matt. I think we had you and lost you.
While we're waiting, can I ask a question about it?
Sure.
Why is the third whereas in this resolution? Since this resolution has to do with Cascades Park Trail Phase 5, the third whereas has to do with the installation of traffic signals at 11th and Walnut and 14th and Walnut, which would be the next resolution.
And
This resolution actually just
paste
had the mistaken title. The resolution should be for the 11th and Walnut and 14th. The title
There
of
we go.
approving funding for construction of Cascades Park Trail Phase 5 is incorrect.
Okay, thank you.
Well, there we go. So that I read the title and it was just like, let's just go. All right. So this is actually for the, as Mr. Allen said, the 14th Street, 11th Street projects.
Good evening, Matt Smithers with Engineering Department. The Walnut Street Traffic Signals Project will include the installation of new traffic signals at the intersections of 11th and Walnut and 14th and Walnut. The bids for the project were open on November 17th, with the city receiving two bids, with the lowest being from Raggle Inc. in the amount of $757,156.75. Construction should begin in the spring of 2022, and this contract has already been approved by the Board of Public Works. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
All right, any questions by commissioners?
I just want a street sign to be put on 11th at Walnut and 11th. Someone ripped it off. It's been gone for a year. And when I give people directions how to get to the Upland Brewery, I can't. They turn a left at 11th and there's been no sign for a long time. So
We'll be insured to
Well,
include a new one.
There we go. I was gonna say, either way, they're gonna have to, they'll see a light, so. Any other questions or comments by commission? And I'm not hearing anything, so go to the public. Any questions by the public? Not seeing anything. So let's go ahead and come back to the commission regarding resolution 21-90. I would entertain a motion.
If I may, I might suggest that the motion would be
Yes.
to amend the title as well. So it looks like there's a mistake in the resolution number and the title. So if whoever makes the motion, if a friendly motion would be to amend the title to the proper.
So the title would be 21-90, funding approval of construction agreement for traffic signal upgrades at 11th and Walnut and 14th and Walnut.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry about that, Commissioner Canardi as well.
That's okay. So I make a motion that we approve resolution 21-90 revised to say funding approval for construction agreement for traffic signal upgrades at 11th and Walnut and 14th and Walnut.
I'll second that motion as amended.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's go to roll call.
Cindy Canardi, yes.
Tim Hutton, yes.
Deborah Meyerson, yes.
David Walter, yes.
Nick Kappas, yes. So resolution 21-90 is approved. All right. And that ends new business for December 6th meeting. On to item number 7, business general discussion. Anyone have anything for go to the order?
This is David Walter. I know that we normally renew members on the commission in the new year. And kind of a general question here. In the past, we fill out application forms for that, so then we can get our names in first. And probably Jeff Underwood or Larry Allen can advise us on that. But I did go to the city website, and there is an application form where you can fill out and state your interest in being on this commission. And I just want to double check and make sure that's the proper procedure.
Yeah. Some of us, I know I received an email about it. I don't know if everyone else did. But yeah, make sure if you plan on
email.
Okay, great. So yeah, make sure that you reapply if you want to. Did you have something to say, Commissioner Hutton? Did I interrupt you?
I had not received such an email, I don't believe.
Okay, so I would recommend going to city's website, looking at the boards and commissions, and finding the application. My general business, general discussion item is that I am actually moving to the county effective on January 11th. So I will not be renewing, obviously, because I'll be outside of the border of the city. Right now, I actually live within 0.1 miles of the city border, and I'm literally moving across the street into the county. So it's been, so my last meeting will be the next one at the end of December, but I just want to give everyone a heads up on that. So It's been a real pleasure. Obviously, I'm not going to say my goodbyes now. I'll get one more meeting. I'm not going to do that. But just want to give everyone a heads up.
If it's helpful,
So,
oh, I'm sorry, Mr. President, go ahead. I didn't mean to
Nope.
cut-
no, you go ahead.
Okay, if it's helpful to commissioners, we can remind you of what your terms are, like when they end, if you're going to be, because you may not need to reapply if your term isn't up. So we can get, that's in my office, so I can let you know what your term lengths are. If that's
Technically, every single one of us is a year-long term, and we all have to apply year after year.
for RDC, you're right. Okay.
Well,
So for me, who came in not on January 1st, but sometime later in the year, my year isn't even up right now. Is that right?
well, it
No,
still ends on
it
December
is.
31st at the end of the year, and
All
then you'd be
December 31st.
reappointed as of January 1st. We'll also follow up with city staff just to make sure to see, because 2 of you are appointed by the council and 2 of you or 3 of you are appointed by the mayor. So it might just be a difference in the offices and the way they're handling them. So we'll follow up to see what's going on with that communication and try to get you some information as soon as possible.
Yeah, because I think Commissioner Meyerson and I are appointed by the city council. We were contacted by the city clerk. I think they did that for us. So
Yes, and on the city side, Mary Catherine Carmichael heads that up for the mayor's office. So you can either reach out to her or she'll be reaching out to you, I'm sure.
all right, good question, Dave. Sparked some good conversation. All right. Well, anything else for the good of the order?
I would just note that so that there will be an orientation following this meeting. Any commissioners who are interested in attending that orientation, please hang on. Jeff Underwood and I will be hanging on. And then at the conclusion of that meeting, it's not considered a meeting for the purposes of open doors laws. So that's why no members of the public will be present.
What's it orientation to?
Your role as a commissioner on the redevelopment commission.
Right after this meeting.
That's correct.
I didn't know that was happening, but great.
All right. Thanks, I guess that means we're on to item number 8, adjournment. Do we have a motion for adjournment of our December 6th meeting?
As
Make a
David
motion to
Walter,
adjourn.
remove the adjournment.
Okay.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right. Meeting's adjourned.